Happy Sunday, everybody. GingerBeardMark here at the Arena Theatre in Wolverhampton with author, radio personality.
I don't know about personality, but I'm on the radio.
Stand-up comedian Robin Ince. Robin, thanks for joining me.
That's fine.
Right, well, I'll start you off with an easier question. Right, what's your favourite Daphne and Celeste song?
Now, this is difficult because I was watching Daphne and Celeste recently with Michael Legg. It was actually at, where was it? Not Finsbury Park. It was Tufnell Park. I went to see Daphne and Celeste with their producer, Max. And I think it's Who Stick You still.
Yeah.
I think it is. I think I like Who Stick You more now because of the kind of confusion on Daphne and Celeste's faces as they looked out at the audience and everyone was and there was definitely because when I went with my friend Michael Legg, we thought, we're obviously going to be the strangest people at the entire gig. We were a long way off.
Yeah, so you're not sold by the Max Tundra?
Oh, I think Max Tundra's great. I think it's a fantastic pop album, and I think he's done a really brilliant job. But I was just surprised at the audience because there had obviously always been for Daphne and Celeste a much bigger kind of older audience who liked the cartoonish quality to them. They are harking back to some of the cartoon bands of the kind of 60s and 70s. But yeah, they definitely had this look. And Max was giving everything on stage. But they have that. This is who are these people? And they have turned up. And we didn't really believe they would turn up, but they're here. And so they did, obviously all the classics, and then did a load of the new stuff. But yeah, it's a great single. They have a certain thing where when you hear. I'm going to go way back now and say Petula Clark.
Okay.
When you hear a new producer come along and go, Petula Clark will still be relevant, and in her 80s she remains so. What was it called? She did a song which is kind of about. It's about a computer almost. But anyway, it's brilliant. Petula Clark's last single was amazing. So I think Max has, much like the producer Petula Clark, made sure that Daphne and Celeste remain relevant for this slightly later portion of the 21st century.
Well, so Who Stick You?
Yeah, I think Who Stick You. It's the song that Michael and me opened our Angry show with, and from that point onwards the audience went, I don't know what's happening anymore. And we were in a particularly damp red room. It was a room that was red enough to have been in a Michael Powell film or early Scorsese, and it had lovely kind of walls that were just, they glistened a little bit, and it had posters from when Andy Kershaw had DJ'd there many years before, and it was the kind of room that you wonder after you've left it whether it ever existed in the first place, especially as you just saw two middle-aged men singing Who Stick You.
Right, this is one that I think I know the answer to. It might be an obvious answer, but it's a question I like. Who's the most famous person you've sent a text message to?
I suppose in terms of internationally, it probably is Ricky Gervais, I suppose. That would be the stop calling and stop leaving these bizarre messages that go, and that would... so I suppose he probably is.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing sometimes when you realise that some of the people you know are quite famous. I find that very odd, because, it's sometimes you're in a pub or something like that and you think, this person who I still merely see as a person is... it was, I think, that moment with Ricky where he was on the Golden Globes, and I think he was winning awards, they're not presenting them. And there's a lovely bit where apparently you could just see Clint Eastwood turning to one of his friends and going, who is that? Who is he? And that's...
a little bit humbling there.
Yeah, well, it was a lovely... And then that was just the beginning of the first tour that I did with him. And we ended up going to stay in a hotel in Dunstable, and everything went awry. Because I think he hadn't quite realised the magnitude of the success and fame. And as we walked around Dunstable, literally couldn't go anywhere without people going, do the dance! Which was... it's wonderful because it's kind of quite disabling for his ability to mock me publicly, is the fact that if he starts doing that, people go, who's that bloke over there mocking that old man in glasses publicly? Do the dance, mate!
How did Vernon Kay ruin your life?
He didn't. He changed my life. He improved my life. Vernon Kay lifted a great weight from my shoulders. I used to do quite a lot of TV warm-up. And that is, and I would get things. I did 2 pints of lager.
Yeah.
And I would always get the episodes. Jo Caulfield was the other warm-up, and she would always get the episodes where there were almost no scene changes, and I would always get the ones that would go on till like 11:30 at night. And warm-up's quite hard because you can sometimes, if you go on straight away and just start doing routines, that means you might have nothing left when it's 10:15 and they go, sorry, we're going to have to make the matchstick cathedral again that Ralph Little drops on the floor, and you're just standing there for 20 minutes. And where are you from? Oh, I've asked already. A silly town to come from, and where's your? And just very but it was the final warm up I did was Vernon Kay presenting a daytime or early evening quiz show, and he just walked on and he was tremendously rude about me, and I thought, oh, do you know what? I'm 34 years old. I've reached an age where I don't feel I can really be belittled by Vernon Kay in a professional capacity, and then afterwards what was quite weird was it turned out the celebrities on the show were people that I actually knew. So when they were then friendly to me afterwards, it was like, oh, and he became more friendly. But that was what led to me obviously creating night after night in Edinburgh for 27 nights in a row, creating a badly drawn image of Vernon Kay's face on a unripe melon that I would then punch over and over again until it exploded before singing Mustang Sally. Still one of my favourite things I ever did in the show, but it was very much an either-or scenario with the audience.
According to Google, you have 5 influences. Do you know who they are?
I wonder who they are.
I'd
Is Harry
say
Enfield in there?
No, he's not.
I just wonder, because a lot of people, I've never thought about it, but apparently the older I've got, the more I look like Harry Enfield.
Oh yeah,
and
I've
because I do
that,
big
yeah.
stupid voices as well. I did see one that annoyed me, because there was one that was apparently I've been influenced by Ricky Gervais.
Yes,
that was annoying. But who were the other ones then?
I've got them here, and some I'd agree with, and some. So there's Carl Sagan.
Right. Yep.
John Peel.
Yep.
Richard Feynman.
Yep.
Ricky Gervais.
Yep.
And Alexei Sayle.
Yeah,
so
Alexei.
Ricky's the odd one.
In fact, there's a bit that I do in this show where I realise I'm kind of channeling Alexei. There's a if I do it tonight, I don't always do it. There's a little bit where I feel I'm doing Alexei Sayle. That was a bit. I remember when I first kind of started working with Alexei Sayle years and years ago, where there was this great thing that I'd gotten to do this gig where I was doing a gig where I had a bluegrass band on, which was Trout, Watkins, Heyman, Lee, which is members of Wave Pictures, and Darren Heyman, ex of Hefner and many other bands, and there was Ben Goldacre on, and there was Richard Sandling, who's a great fan of VHS culture of the 80s and 90s. So we had an epidemiologist, a bluegrass band, a VHS obsessive, and then Alexei Sayle came along. And he hadn't really done any stand-up for a long time. I said, you don't have to do stand-up, we can just have a little chat on stage or whatever. And we just did this kind of slight double act thing. And then the next time I rang up Alexei, he went, my wife hates you. And I went, why? He went, yeah, Linda really hates you. And I was like, oh, I don't know what I've done. And she said it was because I was apparently luring him back to stand-up.
Oh, okay.
And Linda apparently said, Alexei, don't forget you were number 15 in the top 100 stand-ups of all time. Don't go back to it, you'll dilute the legacy. And then we did a benefit for a library, and that unfortunately was eventually closed. It was a library in, I think it was Kensal Green. And there was this great moment where Alexei was doing, as he did the first couple of times, like the kind of stories he'd tell when he was just, doing book promotion and things like that. And then someone shouted out, got overly excited. Someone who'd probably seen Alexei in 79, 1980. And whatever they shouted out, Alexei just suddenly leapt up in the air and they went, that's right, ah! Right? And I looked round at Linda and she was just like going, oh, no, the stand-up is alive again.
Like awoken the ghost.
Yeah. I'm living with a stand-up comedian again. Oh, I've been living with an author for 20 years. It's not fair.
And does Briain Cox really talk like that, or does he just put that on to impress the MILFs? It's real. It's real. His Geppetto, who made the not the wooden boy or the boy made out of fibre optics, because obviously there's more than one Briain Cox. We once had John Ronson on the Infinite Monkey Cage, and we had people complaining they couldn't tell the difference. Yeah.
And I think there's because John Ronson's there's a slight kind of sibilance with what John does. Whereas Briain has just got a kind of a general an Oldham softness. But it's interesting, isn't it? Where I suppose because people now aren't used to a great variety of voices. You know,
Yeah.
they can delineate between all manner of kind of posh presenters, but if you have two people, you know, from the northwest, they're, you know, absolute chaos. But yeah, I've never seen him afterwards going, "Oh God, I am so sick of just talking in such a delightful, soft and mellifluous way about Nebula."
Like Frank Sidebottom.
Yeah,
like he takes
yeah.
the head off at the
Here
end.
comes little Brian. All's been on Sky at night. You having your Kazagan t-shirt. Very specific references there to Frank Sidebottom. Which, of course, links very nicely to John Ronson, and we're all there.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved that film. Frank was an amazing film.
Yeah, I think once you get over the fact that it's not a biopic about Chris Seavey, then you can just enjoy it as this.
Amazing. And mate, it's about, I mean, 'cause it's a film about mental health, really, and it's about, and I Love Your Wall at the end. I love that song. I just think it's so beautiful, and I think, I've not seen that many Michael Fassbender films, but I thought just for that alone, the way that he performs after he's lost the papier-mâché head, and very beautiful film.
Yeah, amazing. Why is John Peel so obsessed with dictators?
Oh yeah, that was a lot of fun to do. That was the weird thing about that, because that must have been about 2000, 1999, 2000, when I used to be on the 11 o'clock show, and I'd be dressed up as John Peel, and I can't remember exactly where the idea came from, that they would all be different. I remember the first time that I actually had to DJ for Pol Pot, and he'd do these. One of them. Well, some of the dictators that were kind of unknown dictators have gone on to become
Successes.
Yeah,
Well.
terrible, dogmatic and cruel genocidal zealots. So that probably won't ever get repeated.
Yeah, it might make it a bit awkward.
Yeah, I think it was that normal thing, you know, the kind of the clash of ideologies between the idea that John Peel would frequently get corporate gigs for oppressive regimes.
Would you like to promote your tour or your book? Or?
Oh yeah, well I've got a new book coming out. With an Infinite Monkey Cage book is out in paperback next month. So it'll be out about middle of May, and then I've just done a book about kind of comedians and their minds and how that reflects on all human minds. A book kind of about social anxiety and why we become what we become. Death, social anxiety and imagination, and that's called I'm a Joke and So Are You, and that comes out in the autumn.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for listening to my questions and answering them.
Why do you put them backwards in your notebook? I found that interesting. You didn't do them forwards, you did them backwards. Do you normally do things like that? It's a kind of Da Vinci style thing, isn't it? Like the backwards writing.
I don't know. Yeah.
Very enigmatic.
You've embarrassed yourself there, Mark. If anything, I've lost respect for you.